St Mirren, St Johnstone and Livingston. You know, we shouldn't be dropping points to them. You know, we've got to go through this league. You've got to beat the rubbish and then take points off them. And if you do that, then you usually win the league, mate. I think a lot of players, after the St Mirren game, for me, there was a few players out there that just looked like they weren't bothered. And if the manager's trying to get the best out of them and it's not happening, Ox, then it's going to affect results, which we've seen. So by that, the manager then usually carries the can. And unfortunately, he's had to go. And the football's not been too great, and tactics have not been too great. And we've questioned the system, like you said, that the way we've done the setup. Before, we can all agree on that. It's not been too great. But once the players stop playing for you, Ox, then obviously that's what gets you the sack.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, I'm a great believer when you get into the conversation with football managers, you can't afford to get rid of him. That means he's got to go, because I don't believe you can afford to keep somebody in.
Oh, because it impacts on other parts of the football business, Ox, merch sales and everything else, and ticket sales primarily. But I mean, the football's not been good for a number of months now under Gio. You know, I know Champions League is, we all cut him some slack on that, and no doubt I suspect the board probably did as well. But the bread and butter in the league, when you start and you, as Southside said, you can't get a result against Livingston at home in front of 50,000 people. Whatever's going on, none of us probably will ever really know the truth, Ox. You know, which players are no playing for them or who's down in tools. And I think some of the players do have to shoulder a lot of responsibility for what's happened. Because at the end of the day, it's Rangers are playing for. It's not just Giovanni Van Bronckhorst or the manager. And that really blows my nut, that, because there will be a bounce and they'll come out, and if a new guy comes in and we all of a sudden go on a 20-game unbeaten run, you know, we'll all be sitting here in a show in a couple of months start of next year saying, you know, why did that happen? But we know why it happens. We know what happens in dressing rooms. They're fickle places. Players are fickle.
Well, the boys are angry tonight. Bridgeman will be knitting and blowing nuts.
yeah. Like I was trying to say earlier, there's a lot of anger going around, and you just mentioned it with a slightly different bit of stress in your voice. What if? The big what if for all these fans will be if that same team come out and absolutely leather some of the teams in this league by a number of goals. There are going to be questions going to be asked of them and their character. Playing
devil's advocate, what happens if a new manager comes in, plays a different tactic, different shape, and then we hammer them? Would that no point in maybe Gio?
Look, Gio could be questioned on his tactics, and everybody's seen it, particularly the guys that go home and away, like Southside there. They see some changes here and there. I'm quite straightforward. My team should be able to beat any team in this league. Team's going to beat us, they're going to have to play bloody well, and we've got to be really, really good, and they've got to be better than us to beat us, or really, really lucky. And that's still been the case. They've actually beat us, and there've been no bad players. We've been rotten. We have been utterly rotten at times. And that's sad for me to say.
Livingston at home for about 60 minutes, appalling. St Johnstone away after 20 minutes, we just fell out the game and looked clueless. And then obviously St Mirren, the first half and maybe part of the second half, we were unjointed.
All of them, yeah.
Thoughts on, was it never going to work? Do we need somebody in there with a connection, a Scottish connection, if that makes sense, Southside, or are we just living in the past there?
I think ideally people would probably like to think that we could do that. We could have an ex-player in. There's one or two that's sort of trying to get into man.
You mean like Giovanni?
Well, look, you know, he wasn't my cup of tea when we first went for him, right?
Consistently said that. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you don't want to be proved right. I wanted him to succeed. And we've got to remember, he took us into the Champions League. He ticked 2 boxes for the board as well. You know, and the 2 teams that we've knocked out are still in the Europa League. I think one of them tapped our group. So he done that for us as well, Ox. But whether we want a Rangers connection, don't know. I've heard the usual Kevin Thompsons and Kenny Millers or Neil McCann's, but I don't know so much about that. I just think we need to get a manager that's going to come in, no nonsense, and just set about that squad and tell me exactly what he expects from them and what he demands, and then I think we just take it from there. I think if we've got that appointment correct, Talks, then I think that will take care of itself.
All right, talking about no nonsense. We've been joined by Robert. Evening, Robert.
Evening, Oxford, Brisbane, Southside and Jaffa. Good to hear you guys. Hi, good Southside. Listen, guys, it's not a nice day. It's not a happy day. It's not a day for people to say, I told you so and all that, because we've had to let go another Rangers great player, right? And I'm sick and tired of seeing my heroes and players that guys that I loved come right to my club, going and leaving with an asterisk. John Gregg, the greatest Ranger of all time. Then we had David Vieira. I know he was only assistant with B. Stuart McCall, who was only temporary, and Alistair McCoy. And I hope in my lifetime I never see one of my heroes manage Rangers Football Club again, because it's so hurtful. And I wish Giovanni, and I was one of the ones shouting for his head, and it was time for change. But I wish Giovanni Van Bronckhorst all the best, him and his family, and the shoots of whatever they do. Because, see, that man gave me one of the greatest nights in my Rangers, supporting my Rangers. And I remember 72 vaguely, when we beat Bayern Munich 2-0 at Ibrox. And what an achievement that was. We only won the Cup Winners' Cup. And then I remember Leeds United at Ibrox. And I remember Leipzig at Ibrox under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. And to me, my memory, that was the greatest, because I was too young to remember Bayern, and I certainly remember Leeds. And that, to me, was one of the greatest nights as a Rangers supporter. So, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, I thank you, sir. I thank you so much for everything you've done. But it was time for change. Unfortunately, it was time for change, because your tactics and your style of play and your set-up and everything else, all these injuries have got to have something to do with the training. And it was time for change. But I thank you so much. But can I ask you four guys on the panels, and I know you're all true bears, can I ask you four guys a wee question here, Ox?
On you go, mate.
Do you think, as well as Giovanni Van Bronckhorst losing his job today, do you think Stuart Robertson and Ross Wilson should also lose their jobs?
We'll take them one at a time, yeah?
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Right, Jaffa, Ross Wilson, what's your thoughts, mate?
Okay, yes, I think Ross Wilson should go.
What's your rationale, mate?
I just think the recruitment, Ox, and some of the other stuff that you hear coming out of that end of the club, I don't think his record's been that great overall. And I think the responsibility that the guy's got with the amount of money of our club that he's got the responsibility of spending, I'm not convinced that he's the right man for the job.
Mm-hmm. All right, makes sense. Bridge, any thoughts on it, mate? You thought about it? Southside?
I think, Robert, I think it's a massive job, and we can look at his signings. I think he's in the last chance saloon, if I'm honest, Ox. I think going forward, if he's still in the position, then I think that he's got to get every sort of signing more or less right going forward. Players that we need that are going to come in here and do a job and no take a few weeks to get going or a couple of months to get going. I think we need players in, ready, at the right age, and ready to go. So I think he's on the last chance saloon for me, mate, to be honest.
Can I come in on that, Oxter? Sorry about that.
Yeah, on you go, Bridge.
It's just to say that I think certainly last year we've been went through all the highs of getting to a European final. And this guy's only had a 1 year. He's only been with us a year, went from the highs of that and he's got us a Scottish Cup.
We're talking about Ross Wilson, mate.
No, I'm talking about Ross Wilson. So he's been taking a lot of the glory sort of for that as well. But now, when the crap hits the fan, it's something no right. There's something no right about the situation with him and the players, whether they weren't allowed to buy in players. But I think Jaffa told us he was given 15 million to come in and buy. So they've done that, and that's Ross Wilson's job. In my opinion, he's definitely got to go. Definitely got to go.
I don't like to see anybody lose their job in any walk of life in certain circumstances, Robert. I think, if I'm being honest, I don't think there'd be a confidence in the recruitment under Ross. So I think it would maybe be time to shake hands and maybe go down with a different route, let the new manager decide on the setup, and agreed with the board of directors and see where it takes us, mate.
Yeah, Oxford, can I ask you, I mean, see, Rangers seem to be handing out jobs willy-nilly, and maybe that's why we're in the position we are. We always seem to be, if Celtic pays somebody 15 grand a week, we'll pay them 20 grand a week. That's the impression I get with my club, right? Do we really need a director of football? Would that not save a wage if we didn't have him as that Ross Wilson, etc.? And I agree with you. I don't like to see anybody lose their job. It's no nice, because I've been managers in my job over the years, and it's no nice when you have to take somebody's livelihood away. It's the worst thing that can happen to you as a manager, and take somebody's livelihood away. I hated when I had to do it. But you know what? I just feel my club, we need a change for top to, but we just need a change, Ox, because us as Rangers supporters and Rangers fans, we put everything into that club. Southside follows them everywhere, home and away, and so does thousands other. And we buy the merchandise, we give our season tickets, we give my shares, and we as fans and supporters deserve so much better. And I'm sorry, I don't think we're getting that. I really, really don't think we're getting that.
I've got an idea how to induce the revenue. Mr. Kelly, we should charge him by the square yard for his merchandise. We'll make a fortune, mate.
He only goes to games when he gets free tickets.
Oh, have you noticed that, Robert? Have you noticed that?
I gave him the half game.
Don't worry, that's in the book, mate. That's in the book.
And he still didn't even buy a pint of ball, bro. That's how miserable he is.
Right. I don't know about the director of football role. That's the thing, Southside. And then Jaffa. Unless you're in the inside, we don't know. What we're talking about might be 10% of the guy's job. You know, we don't know. For us, it looks as if it's 95% of his job, Southside. You know.
I think he's into sled in it. Like, I think Magpie brought it up a while ago, didn't he, when he said, would you know how to run a football club? And I says, well, no, but you get people round about you, and that's what the board have done as well. They've went for Ross Wilson, thinking that he's the guy that can run the playing side of our football team, and he's in charge of contracts, players in, players out. I know we've added John Park, and I think we've added a lot more scouts to our system. I think that will take a wee bit of time to develop. But it's down to the board, and it's something that they'll need to really think about. Is this the way to go forward with a director of football? Or do you let the manager come in with a backroom team and your scouts then dictate players? And then you've got probably Stuart Robertson, who I think I might be wrong, but I think at the last EGM they said they were upping his money close to probably, he's one of the few that get a salary. And I think it's close to nearly 400 grand. I could be wrong, but I think it's close to that. So he's in charge of running the whole football club as itself, day-to-day running of the club. So if you're going to add that onto him as well, because somebody has to go and meet the players and then have to negotiate a contract. So I take it director of football takes that all away for other people in the club doing what they're supposed to be doing in their day-to-day job. But it's a big call. It's something that I think the board need to think long and hard about. Is this the strategy we're going to stick to?
I mean, I would imagine that part of Ross's job, Robert, as he would have had to have presented, come to Jaffa before he come to yourself, Robert. Jaffa and is that Ross would have had to presented, right, we've got Giovanni coming in, this is the strategy, this is what he wants, this is how it's going to go, and then they would have revalued at the end of the season, and Ross is going to go and revalue again, and you'd be thinking, if you were sitting across the table, you've just told us this a year ago about somebody else. So sometimes you need a fresh face and fresh ideas, fresh trust. Jaffa?
Well, I think that's my take on it, Ox. I mean, obviously, we don't know what Ross Wilson's breakdown in his job is, as you say. I mean, all we do know is that not just the first team, the B team, the youth squad and the ladies team, all these players have contracts, and all the staff that run the training centre. And as far as I understand it, Ross Wilson literally oversees all of that. And he has this strategy, this overall strategy of kids coming through. It's from grassroots all the way through, and how we're, going to produce the next homegrown players, the next Rangers, the next Nathan Pattersons, or I'm trying to think of Charlie McCann's. That's why we spent. I mean, even in the close season there, Ox, it was Ross Wilson that was parading the 7 or whatever it was young academy players that we bought. Zach Lovelace from Millwall, who we paid money for. It was him who scouted him and went and got him. And there was a number of other young lads. There was young lads from Motherwell who was highly rated, who we got in. So there's a number of young players. It's not just the first team. I know that's a big part of his job, but that's not the only part of his job. So you're right. Andy's got the control over the manager. I'm afraid. I think as fans, we just see it as the players that we're signing. And we see that as the Ross Wilson connection. I know the manager, Giovanni and Gerrard, had their say on what players come in. I know they did. Giovanni acknowledged that he had say on certain players. But Ross Wilson's the guy, I think, who's presenting the players. And he's doing the analysis on them, the analytical, and he's breaking it down. And he's saying, this guy's available, this contract's coming out, whatever it is. And bearing in mind, ultimately, Ross Wilson's working within a budget, which is given to him by the board. They're all involved in it. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. But what I would say, the recruitment, if you label that at Ross Wilson's door, it's not been great. We've made a few blunders over a sustained period of time, and I think it is time for a different direction.
Robert?
Totally agree with Gaffer. As I say, Davy really needs a director of football, because I think it's proven it's not working. I mean, in the days gone by, and I know football has changed, I know it's came forward so much, but I'll tell you, under Doc Wallace and Graham Souness and Walter Smith and guys like that, we didn't need anybody else telling us they're the players that you're going to have to work with, because they had their people are getting players. And I'm sorry, his recruitment has been really poor. It's you can maybe have the big Bassey and Joe Bassey, etc. But Oxford, I'll be honest with you, I'm sorry, I don't think, I'm not even giving Ross Wilson credit for Bassey and Aribo, etc. I'm giving that down to Steven Gerrard, because Steven Gerrard was a youth coach at Liverpool, and he'd have watched players like Joe Aribo and Calvin Bassey and the reserve teams at Leicester and at Liverpool, and he'd have seen them. So I could be totally wrong here, totally wrong. It's only my opinion as a Rangers fan. I don't think
Ross Wilson signed Aribo, mate. I think you're right. Steven Gerrard brought him in his first season, when that was 4 years ago. So you're right what you're saying. But even Calvin Bassey, Oxford, I could be totally wrong, but I'm not giving him any credit, because I'll look at his signings, his recruitment, and I think it's poor. I really, really think it's poor. Rangers are going to Aberdeen and bring a guy in that couldn't even get a game for Aberdeen. Let's be honest, and Scott Wright. No disrespects to the boy, he is not good enough to play for our team. It's like watching the players under Warburton and Katrina. That's what Scott Wright is. And as much as we love him as well, I'm only pointing these players out. Fashion Sakala will never be good enough to play for Rangers. As much as we love his wee smile and the way he gives 100% and all that, he's not good enough to play for Rangers. And that's only 2 out of a list I could probably give you that are not good enough for our football club. That's all about opinions, Robert, and different players.
Yeah.
See the difference. I accept Southside that when you bring in players that obviously you're hoping everybody's a first team player, but there's starters and squad players. You know, you can't fill. You know, you can't fill everybody with the top earners. You know.
No, you've got to try and get a bit of experience. I think if you look at it, Tom Lawrence was probably the experienced side there. Being in the Championship and all that, and that's a hard league to play in and get out of. And he's played relatively most of his games down in England, so he was experienced. Probably Kolak, probably experienced player as well, being 28. But Tillman was a project and a chance. He's a boy with talent that Bayern Munich see has got a bit of talent, and you can see he's got something about him, but he's got to be up and down that park and running about like a maniac and try to get stuck in when you're playing at Glasgow Rangers in Scottish football. And I think that's the thing that shocked the boy. I think he's quite wanting to just get the ball and go and do his stuff. But we need more than that when you're playing for us at the moment. I think Yilmaz is the same, spent a lot of money on him. I think he's a boy that's got a good bit of experience, more than some of your younger boys, because he's played at Besiktas for a while, played in the Champions League, played in a lot of big games in Turkey. So I think that one wasn't so much a gamble if I'm looking at it. And I think Ben Davies, Robert, was brought in because he looks comfortable on the ball. He looks sort of all right, but he just can't get 90 minutes out of him, the new regular. So we're hoping going forward that we would see that. But it is what it is, Ox. And like you say, Robert's got right, next to nothing gamble, hoping to try and make him into a better player and maybe get something out of him. And he's let us down a few times when you think he's just getting there. He plays a decent sort of game or does some good stuff, and then the following week he's no. Sakala, he's not a starter for me either, if I'm honest. And Matondo, get to see what he actually brings to the party.
I would like to think the rationale in Matondo. I think he's a guy in an open game of football can run onto the ball and maybe cause problems. But remember, in the vast majority of your league games, there's no grass, Jaffa.
No, there is no Ox, and that's part of. I mean, I know we've all spoken on the show on umpteen occasions about Gio's tactics, and if you break the league down, there's 11 teams that we play. There's 3 teams that will come out and play us, and they'll probably play like a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 against us. They'll play an attacking set up towards us. Celtic, of course, Hearts and Aberdeen probably. You could throw in Hibs there, maybe when they're at home, but probably not when they're at Ibrox. But the other 8 teams in the league are all going to play 2 banks of 5. They're going to play a defensive setup, low block, call it whatever you like. But they're going to play a defensive setup and they're going to camp in and try and frustrate us. And I just don't think the recruitment measured up to what the opponents that we were playing in the league. I don't think we set. Why can't we play a 4-4-2? Probably because we don't have the personnel to play it, because we don't have a centre point, centre forward. We're doing Morelos, but probably the weakest point in Morelos' armoury is his heading ability. He's not a jumper. But why did we not recruit somebody like that? Why did we not recruit somebody to play teams like that instead of trying to play round about them or through, keep possession? There's no point in keeping possession against a team when you've got it playing at home, when you're going to have 70 or 80% of the possession. We're still trying to play a 4-2-3-1, and that's where I would label a lot of the. If there is, and I hate saying this because the guy's out of job now. If there is criticism to be labelled at Gio, he just kept repeating the same thing. We were seeing the same tactical setup, and he wasn't attempting with guys like Matondo.
Yeah.
Why did we sign Matondo?
Well, what is it? I mean, Robert, I'll ask you this before we move on to the CEO. I'll ask you this, Robert. When we went the last 2 Old Firm games at their place, not the last 2 of the last 3. We've won them. We've played young boys at outside right, Dalio and Tillman. And that's the problem with Gio. He didn't seem to learn, did he?
No, definitely. And it's because, he stuck up for maybe that's what all he had at the time, let's be honest with you. But can I just say something going forward? Sorry if I'm changing the subject a wee bit. And it's something Bridgman's touched on in this programme for years and years, and I totally agree with 100%. See, Scottish football, I'm not saying forget about Europe, because Europe's for revenue, right? That brings in the revenue. So I'm not saying forget about Europe. But see, in Scottish football, do you know what we need in Scottish football? We don't need a 5'7" Ridvan Yilmaz. Good, grand wee player as he is. Right, no, we need guys like Marvin Andrews. We need tanks on our team, because that's the way Scottish football is. I want to see 2 6'5" centre backs and a 6'4" centre forward. And I'm not going back to the old days, but that's what we need. We need to play fire with fire in Scottish football. You look at that Livingston and the Motherwells and all these kind of teams in Scottish football. Look at what they've got. And that's what we need, to play fire with fire. So come on, see the next Rangers manager, please get a few big bears in there. Get a few guys that be height. Yes, get a few bears. Get a John Brown in there. Get a Richard Gough in there. And I know it's hard to find these kind of my guys.
You're a bit old now. You're a bit old. What the big Steve?
But you know what I'm saying, also? Brisbane's been shouting on this for years on this programme, how he wants a big 6'7" defender and that. And I agree with that. Totally agree.
I just want boys that can play. If our boys could pass the ball south side, and they would do what they're meant to do, and we'd be one of those in silly goals. We wouldn't matter which size the ball, we'd have been winning the games, yeah?
Aye, 100%. But I get what Robert's saying. Probably look for a couple of decent-sized players, bit of physicality. You could maybe Lundstrom, Robert, probably run about that size in the middle of the park, physicality-wise. But I get what Robert's saying. I think Kolak's probably about 6'2" striker, so we're doing no bad there, Robert. But aye, we need fresh players, fresh injection. And we do it, all these players that have decided that they chucked it a few weeks back, and the ones that don't want to be there, hopefully we'll start getting rid of them in January, Ox, and we've got to free up their wages to get other players in. If there's players that we're looking at, then I'd like to think, even if we have to pay something towards it, then the manager gets to build a team. And if we can get a couple of players in January that we might have been looking for in the summer, or maybe even the following year, if they're the right type of players and we identify them, then we should be trying to get them. Because at the end of the day, this football club need a better squad of players. And if they've identified these players that they want to get in, then we should try and get some of them in, at least 2 at the start of January. I know we need a hat full of players. We probably need as many as 12 or 14, to be honest, for a squad.
The hardest thing is going to be getting rid of people, Jaffa.
Well, they're all. There's a lot of those players on hefty contracts. I mean, January isn't far away, and the wheeling and dealing will start. I think we know there's a couple definitely that have got their eye on getting out. I've said it on the show before, if we can get £1 million for Alfie, or £500,000 for him, Kent, probably going to be the same situation. It's whatever you're going to get for him and who wants him. If there's a suitor out there for him, I suspect there will be. I think both of them will find clubs. But there's more than them.
We're not signing another suitor.
No, I hope no. We're not signing another suitor. We've one's enough at our club. Right. But listen, I see names getting bandied about today. John Fleck, Kenny McLean. There's various guys that are also looking to move as well. There's other people's contracts are coming up, but we can't keep overloading the wage bill. There's as Southside said and Robert said, we've got to tidy that up, create a bit of space, and get some guys in. Ultimately, from a new manager's perspective, I just want to see him getting the team fit. See if we get a fit team on the park and get players that actually want to play. I think we'll see a different Rangers team.
Aye. It looks as if I don't want to say the players have down tools, but they've maybe lost confidence in the manager. Anyway, we'll be joined by Blue Star. Evening, Blue Star.
Evening, Oxchair. Evening to the rest of the guys in the panel. Robert, Southside, Jaffa. Guys, that is a bit of a sad day, but I think it was inevitable. I think the mass majority of fans listening to all the other podcasts, I think everybody was kind of getting into the opinion that Gio had kind of had his time. And then in that, we keep referring back to UEFA final. Yes, he got us there and the team played well in getting there. But the facts are this. When he got the job, we were 6 points ahead in the league. Granted, the UEFA run probably put paid to that. It was too much for the limited resources that he had. when we were only using 14 players. We were playing the last 4 games, getting to the final without even a striker on our books that was fit. Getting into this season, guys, that was a killer for me. I said it for the start of the season. I looked at the recruitment. I looked at the players that we brought in. I said it for day one, and I'll say it again. Middle of the park, we brought in nothing of any note. Bar Lawrence, and we only got a couple of games out of him, and he get crocked. So for me, he was up against it for day one in the sense that there certainly wasn't enough players brought in. And the money, the mass majority of the money that was spent, it was spent on our defence, and we didn't even see anything out of that. Then Goldson gets crocked. So he was up against it, to be fair to the guy. He never, ever really got time to put what he would have classified as his best team. No. But I would agree with you, Ox, when you made the point about, did we ever really see what his style of football was? Because I certainly didn't. Yes, in Europe it was different because you're playing against teams just home and away. You weren't playing on a consistent basis. On that level, in the consistency, in the league, we were atrocious. Under Gio, we were atrocious, and it all culminated in this season. I'll say it again. We never at any time looked convincing on the park in our league. And when you're up against one other team, when our wage bill is in the region of 38 million quid, our board had to react. They couldn't possibly, as we've already touched on, Ox, about the corporate, etc. These guys spend big bucks, same as we all do. But when they're up in these lounges, they're spending thousands and thousands of pounds, no hundreds. So when that starts drifting away, when your team's not playing well in the park, that's when these guys don't bring in their friends and they don't bring in the rest of their colleagues, etc. And that was definitely going to happen. Unless there was a massive turnaround and all these players went onto the park come January and all start playing the way that we think we know that they can. It was a big ask. And going to face them in January the 2nd, yes, you're hoping upon hope that you can get a result. A result wouldn't even have been good enough, Ox. It had to be a win because he would have been dropping even more points. In the 3 games, as we all said, in fact, yourself, I think you went for the last 6 games, but it whittled down to 3, and we took 2 points out of 9. It was on the cards. He had to go. There was no option. But I agree with you, Robert, on the Ross Wilson thing. The recruitment process has been absolutely shocking. Nothing short of diabolical. The money that was spent, whether these guys come in and get injured or not, is immaterial. The mass majority of that 15 million went in our defence, and we've seen nothing for them. You can't do that at a club like ours. No one we're paying out that kind of money. 38 million, and we're up against teams that don't have even $1 million in wages. That's what we were up against. We took the 2.5 Liverpool, and we kept getting told the same story. These teams were spending hundreds and hundreds of millions, which is true. We all know it. But it's the same calibre that we're playing against week in, week out, and we're paying 38 million, and we weren't seeing anything like what we should have been seeing for the players that were on our park. And guys like Sakala, whilst we knew, I stuck up for him all the time, and I still would because he gives 100%. We Robert's right. These guys, quite frankly, they shouldn't be at our club. They're not good enough. So I do think, guys, never mind Sean Dyche or even Bale again. For me, Sean Dyche's style of football was absolutely atrocious to watch. Yes, he kept Burnley in the Premier League, but he was spending millions just the same. I think we need to go back to basics. We need a team on the park that can win in Scotland, certainly compete against the other side, and take it for there. The illusions of grandeur of getting into Europe, etc., yes, that'll take time. But first and foremost, we've got to put a team on that park that can win in Scotland. And for me, guys, that's got to be somebody that knows the Scottish game. It has to be. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll pass you to somebody who's always spent a lot of money on his defence. Bridgeman?
How true that is. But we'll not say what defence that was. Look, what the guys have said tonight, in varying degrees of passion, They've all been, to me, they've all been absolutely spot on. We just lack something, and not just something in one player, but something in about 6 or 7 players sometimes on the park. And you can't play the top level football, even in Scotland. You can't play top level football with 6 or 7 players that aren't making an appearance properly, and that's what's wrong. I don't know. We've said it. Whether the players not playing for the manager, or are they just rotten? Yeah, I think there's a mixture of both there. By the sound of it, I do think when we get a new manager in, if it's Stephen Gerrard, I'll gladly welcome him in. I'll be able to see him. I'll be able to see whomever it is.
Yeah.
I do hope it's Gerrard, and I hope he brings Beale with him. But I doubt that.
I think that ship sailed, mate, if I'm being honest.
It's sunk like the Titanic.
Aye.
Wait, don't feel like that. It's breaking my dreams.
I don't think you're going to be able to sleep tonight, Bridgeman. I think that one's gone. But listen, you made a lot of points there, Blue Star. See the recruitment. See when we took the loan players that we brought in Ramsey and we brought in Dalio and we signed John Suter. Yeah. When I was looking at it, I thought, right, there's rationale behind that. We didn't know if Golson was gone. We're taking a punt on Suter. It might work, it might not. We desperately needed a right-hand-sided player. Ramsey and Dalio can play there. Ramsey brings you other things to his game. And this was last Christmas, and none of it worked. None of it worked. And obviously Suter, he carried on with his injuries. We couldn't get him fit, and then something's happened to my eyebrows. It's nothing to do with the boy. And then Dalio, that was a boy's name, wasn't it, for Man United, and Ramsey. They were coming in with big reputations at different ends of their career, Southside, to give a lift. And in fact, it was a complete opposite for that.
Aye, it just never worked out at all. That's the thing. I mean, Dalio, if you look at what we've done since the start of the season, would it have been better to try to have kept him this season to start with, and seeing the fact that could you have got a tune at him going forward? That would have been the only thing I would have thought of. And it's a lone player again, and technically we want to try and get our own players into the squad. Can I just get back to what Blue Star said just quickly? Blue Star, see when you said somebody that we know that can win in Scotland, what do you mean, Joe? You think you going down the road to a Scottish manager?
Yeah, and the first thing you'll say is, well, who am I thinking about? What I would say is, if it's a Scottish manager, then it has to be somebody basically that's what being at a winning side, put a winning side on the park. Yes, they're few and far between, I get that. But the minute you start talking about England, these guys down there, even in the first division, the Championship, they're spending millions in players. We don't have that. We need a guy basically that can pick players that aren't of note and mould them into a team. And I genuinely believe if we started from scratch, and I know that might not go down well with a lot of fans, but as it stands now, guys, I think our squad's decimated. We've got too many guys there. Quite frankly, I will say it, they shouldn't be at our club anymore. And I think there's too many. And as Ox keeps saying, it's hard to get rid of these guys. Of course it is. But you've got to start somewhere. And if you bring in a guy that knows the Scottish game inside out, then you've got a head start. He knows players that will play, i.e. whether it's a right back, a centre half. They might not be world-class players, but you mould them into a team and you have a style of football that will win in our continent and our SPL. And if we get that on the park, everything else falls into place, because the fans want to go and they want to watch the team winning. And that's what we're not doing now. We've not won a league since 55, and we should have built at 55, and we didn't.
I was going to come back to him there, but he went in a rant there.
I know, sorry.
Just hold your
who's that guy?
Hold your water, lads. Time to get a drink, and because we're going to have a tune. Take it away, Foxy boy.
Follow, we will follow. follow on. Follow, follow, we will follow Rangers. If they go to Dublin, we will follow on. There's not a team like the Glasgow Rangers. No, not one. No, not one. There's not a team like the Glasgow Rangers. No, not one. No, not one. Some folk know all about their sorrows. We will fight till the day is done. There's not a team like the Glasgow Rangers. No, not one. No, not one. Follow, follow, we will follow Rangers. Up the stairs, down the stairs, we will follow on. Follow, follow, we will follow Rangers. If they go to Dublin, we will follow on. Follow, follow, we will follow Rangers. Everywhere, anywhere, we will follow on. Follow, follow, we will follow Rangers. If they go to Dublin, we will follow on.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
Okay, thanks for that. Southside, you were coming back in there, mate?
Aye, Blue Star. I wasn't asking you to come up with a name or nothing. It's just because the way you said it. I'm not advocating that Sean Dyche gets the job, right? But what I was thinking about was he might come in fresh faced, no take any nonsense, completely get a chance to get in his own players or whatever players we've got. Like Ross Wilson, if that's why we're going, looking at some, but he'll probably have a potential and input into getting some players. Probably bring a bit of organisation, a sort of style to a play, and probably be decent at set pieces and stuff like that we've not been. So I'm not saying advocating that he get the job, but I was just thinking, like you were saying, he spent a lot of money. I think he done well for coming into the Premier League and keeping them in there. And I think for me, as long as you put the ball in the net and you score a goal, it doesn't matter to me what type of football you play. As long as you're winning, nobody will really question. If you're winning 2 and 3-0 every week, nobody really questions about your sort of style. You like to have a style, but I just think it's a simple game. If you're winning, then that's the best style that you play. And if it's long ball now and again, or try to play the way Barcelona played 10 years ago, that's why everybody's trying to play since Pep came in. When you look at the state of the teams trying to play ball out for the back, if we need to knock it long, we knock it long. If that's the new manager's style, I don't care. I'm not into playing tippy-tappy football. I want to get results on the park and win. And whatever way you're successful, that's the best way, is it no?
Absolutely, and Sean Dyche might be the answer because he's not in a job. I just think I'd still rather see a guy that knows our league far better than an Englishman, and that's just my personal opinion.
Any thoughts then, Postar? Quickly, just any thoughts? Who names? What you thinking?
Going with what's there in the New Yorks, truthfully, we're not going to get rid of all the players till at least the end of the season. So for me, I don't see why they can't go for whether it's Kevin Thompson or any of the guys been mentioned, McCann, and let them go to the end of the season with the players that's there. Again, let them bring in a couple in January and see how they go on, because they might surprise us all. Yes, it might not work, but then you can go for somebody big or whatever in summer. But the rest of the season, guys, we're not going to get rid of all the players come January, so we're going to be stuck with what we've got. And I just think if they bring in guys that know the club, that whether they're ex-Rangers men or no, I think they'll get merry a tune out of the players that are there now. I definitely do.
what about the flip side of that, Jaffer? If you bring in a new manager this new, hopefully you're not writing after a season, but he's got time to look at everything, build, move on, get rid, and develop.
Well, if you're the recruitment, if you're the guy sitting up the stairs at Ibrox, that's what you've got to. If you're looking at your candidates and CVs in front of you, and your name's there, that's the mantra. Yeah, you're 9 points behind, but you can't write it off. You've got to at least for the remainder of the season, plus the 2 cup competitions, and more importantly the 2 cup competitions. But you've got the one thing that they've got to do is they've got to. For me, the target would be to win every game between now and the end of the season. That's it. That's what you start with, and if that means if you do that, then at least you're in with some form of shout of putting pressure on them. Because that's we all know that pressure makes people do things that they wouldn't normally do, especially in football, when football teams are put under pressure. The other side have not been put under any pressure. Probably, since dare I say it, since Gio came in last year and the turn of the year when they turned us over. Nothing's really changed since that point because it's been too easy. And it can never be like that. It can never be too easy, Ox. And if we do go down, and I've seen all the names mentioned today, Davy Martindale, Duncan Ferguson, earlier on there, the bookies were touting Derek McInnes again, we're starting to get into the daft season, already. Some of the names look quite attractive.
I think if you're talking fresh face, the candidate's obvious,
Yep.
Bob Malcolm.
No, he's sitting here. All right, we've been joined by GB. How are we doing, GB?
Very well, mate. Is that you touting me for the Rangers manager's job there?
No, we're talking about somebody that's intelligent, articulate.
I was got to say, mate. Good, mate. Good. I've never seen so many happy Rangers fans since '55. To be honest, mate. After the news today, I've seen a guy doing donuts with a forklift truck today and everything. So it's been quite an amazing reaction, considering we've got rid of a manager. I think it's just been a kind of Alan McCoy scenario, Ox. It's right job at the wrong time for him. He's shown in spells that he had tactical awareness, but the league, the alarm bells was definitely there. When he first came in, he had that kind of wee run of about 6 games, and then when we got to the Old Firm game, it was an absolute hammer. And you're like, right, okay, you get that one because you're just new in the door. And then as you watch the rest of the Old Firm games, we kind of stuttered in them. And then we start this season and we walk into Parkhead and we get that 4-0 hammering again. And for me, Ox, that was the telling point of the season. And it shouldn't be so early on, but getting another 4-0 hammer at Parkhead was kind of the alarm bells going right off, saying this season isn't going to go the way that we all expect it to go, unfortunately for him. But by the way, I praise the board. They've made the decision. They took their time with it, obviously, early week, but there'll probably be other things behind that. But good on them for making the decision. They could have sat with Gio and ran it to the end of the season and seen how it went, and the pressure would have mounted even more. But they've been decisive.
I think it's obvious that they've been looking for somebody for a week. GB, the decision wasn't made today. Anybody who thinks that's been naive.
Yeah. No, of course, mate. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I praise them for actually being proactive about it. Because again, they could have took the easy decision, no listening to the fans or anything like that, and just sat on Gio and just let it run to the end of the season. Because now they might get the chance to actually build on something with the new manager, and like you have been talking about, get new blood in, get players out that are clearly not wanting to be there anymore. And hopefully that we can mount some sort of a challenge for the rest of the season.
So say, with a bit of luck with this World Cup, Brett, if we're being honest.
Aye. It's gave the board time. Obviously, the results have went that way. Where it gave the board time to come to the decision, and they've probably made it. They've probably been sourcing out the manager already, and then released it today. So I would think there'll be something announced in the next 3-4 days. I think, hopefully, and whoever we get, hopefully gets a better shot at getting good recruitment in. And I dare say we'll have to open the purse strings a wee bit, mate, either in January or going forward. We can see by the whole squad most of them need to go. But this manager will need to come in and set up a system and get a tune out of some of these players. And if some of them are looking to get a new contract going forward, then they'll need to start producing. But for me, some of them have already sailed. I've watched them, mate, and honestly, the last 3 performances at Livingston, St Mirren and St Johnstone, some of the players out there just went through the emotions for me, and in my eyes, they're finished for me. The Rangers player, and hopefully the quicker they get them out my club and our club, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out going forward. GB, I think it's a funny day. It's obviously sad for Giovanni, who's gave us, let's be honest, in more recent history, the last, if you like, 10 year, that couple of weeks with the Leverkusen games and the excitement and the build up, it might never be replicated in the next few years, mate. And for somebody to get such a high just 6 months ago, for the wheels to come off so dramatically, it's actually surprising, but we watched it unfold.
Mm-hmm. Ox, it's been, I mean, I've been looking through the social media and stuff like that, and fans aren't like overly happy about it. I mean, they're actually genuinely sad about it because the Europa League run, and as much as people say, oh well, we didn't win it and all the rest of it, but I mean, think of where we were at that time as well. We're struggling in the league. We're got a massive amount of talent in that squad, and we get to a Europa League final. I mean, with the money that we've been spending and stuff like that, it was just absolutely amazing, and it's got to be a memory that stays with us, and that's why we wanted Gio to be successful, Ox. We wanted them to succeed and build in the summer and then go in all guns blazing into that first game of the season. But it was a damp squid. That Livingston game was a hustle and bustle, and I know it's a hard ground to go to, but even when we went behind, we didn't look as though we were a team that were ready to grab the game with the scruff of the neck and go and absolutely hammer them like a 3-1 result or something like that. We had to grind it out, and you can allow for that. You can allow for the kind of games, but like I say, as soon as we started going into, like, say, that Old Firm and it's another 4-0 hammer, it just shows to me that he wasn't learning the league, and he wasn't learning our biggest opposition. I honestly think even Gerrard, he got away with a lot of bad results because he had Celtic's ticket, and I think if Gio just grasped a hold of that and showed us what he was going to be made of, he would have survived this. But the results spoke for themselves, mate, and the tactics spoke for themselves, and it was game over.
Stubbornness, if I'm being honest, Boaster, some of the Gio's stubbornness, not to be flexible, not to look at things that weren't working. It was quite annoying at times.
Yeah, very much so. For the midfield and then up front, it just wasn't working. This idea of 2 wingers, I mean, we're all talking about money that was spent and we've wasted. Look at that outside right position. What guy have we got there that we can honestly hold our hands on and say, he'll do us a turn a day? We don't have one. Whether it's Sakala, whether it's Wright, and all the other guys that he's tried there, where's the recruitment policy there? On that one position alone, they've drastically, badly failed. So that's not just down to Gio, that's down to Ross Wilson and whoever else. And these are the decisions that Gio's fell on his sword. As you say, stubbornness just looked, it was so apparent from game to game. There was guys coming into the team that hadn't played the previous week, ones that had played well, and then they're automatically dropped the next game. It just didn't make sense a lot of the time.
Robert?
Yeah, can I finish off my call? Thanks for having me on Rangers Radio tonight. Can I finish off my call and say I'm totally disgusted and disappointed in guys like Morelos. We've seen the pictures of him lying in the beach with his cocktail Don't care what he was trying. Picture should never have come out. Totally disgusted. He let Giovanni Van Bronckhorst down and he let himself down. And us Rangers fans over the last 5 years have backed him every time he gets sent off and he came back, we all shout his name. So I'm disgusted in that, Ox. But you know, Ox, I hope, see when the new manager comes in, and I hope it'll take to the end of the season, and see come the end of the season, it's time to get rid of the guys that have been stealing wages off us. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, Jack, Ruth and Hollander, they're three right away. Need to get rid of them. Stealing wages off Rangers Football Club need to go, not good enough, and we need to build, get young players in with legs. And I don't know if he's all agree with Kenny McLean, because I think he's injury prone as well. I don't know if he's the answer going ahead of Ollie McBurney. If that's what we're going to sign, we're just going down the same old road. But anyway, Ox, I'd like to thank you for taking my call tonight. It's onwards and upwards, and hopefully we're appointing the right manager and we can get back to it and beat Hibs at Ibrox and take on the next Old Firm game and beat them. You never know. Get it back to 6 points and put a wee bit of pressure on them, and you never know what will happen. But thanks, guys. Thanks.
Cheers, Robert. Cheers, mate. We've been joined by Big Al. Evening, big man.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we all?
How you doing, mate?
Could somebody go in and take that bag of glue off Blue Star, Kevin Thompson? But I believe, or I hope, there's an announcement tomorrow morning for the week to look at this, for the time to get a manager in place and a proper manager, somebody that can take us forward.
Thoughts, Al? Thoughts?
Who it should be?
Aye, any thoughts?
Well, it has to be somebody that I think you go with two options. I think that Sean Dyche, he looks a good candidate for the job. I would take him. If not him, I'd be going to Livingston and getting a wee boy for Livingston because he knows the league. We can't obviously go and get some top class managers, but people that know the game of football kind of know the British game of football. So I think Dyche ticks that box, and I think the wee man at Livingston ticks that box as well. We've been through this before, this temporary manager, treading water. I'm no longer interested in treading water. But sorry, I should have said, I'd like to thank Van Bronckhorst for his efforts. Ultimately, he failed. So all the best, and I'm sure he'd be quite happy with the payoff he gets. So I don't feel too much sympathy for him. But really moving forward, I think we can't drag this out any longer. I would expect somebody to be announced tomorrow. They've got rid of him today, get somebody in tomorrow, and then we take it from there.
I think they've been working on that for maybe 10 days now, Al, if I'm being honest.
Aye. So they've had plenty of time to look at it. They would have known who was out there, because it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. That was coming for a few weeks, so they've had more than 10 days to think about it. You know what I mean? If there were any board at all, they would have been having discussions about this the past month or so, 6 weeks actually. So I think an appointment has to be made pretty soon. The players that haven't went to the World Cup, they should be in. And see, as for the Morelos thing, I think Morelos deserves to sit in a bit. If he's got a holiday, he's got a holiday. Like, you know what I mean?
I think
it is what it is. Like,
I think you've got to watch, mate, that you don't react to everything that's posted. I mean, the boys on holiday.
Aye, correct. You know, he's on holiday, so he's misses and that.
No,
so I haven't any problem with that.
Aye, they've obviously been getting 2 weeks off, and then they come back in a week a day. You know, so.
Aye. So you're looking for a manager for them to come back in. I'm a manager for them to come back in.
Aye, that's what should happen. I couldn't agree more. Southside, then Jaffa, then Bridge.
Just to let Robert know, Alfie text back, said it was non-alcoholic. No, but you know what it's like. Listen, they've all in a break, and at the end of the day, they do what they want. It's this sort of time. Everybody wants to post on social media, and everybody knows what you're doing. But it's time for a clear out, Big Al. We'll need to recruit players. Some will maybe stay a wee bit longer than others, and the manager will need to get a tune out of them. And I just want somebody that can come in, organise the team, be decent at set pieces, especially in our box and in the opposition box. Have a structure, be organised, and then if we're up there scoring goals and we're winning, it'll not really matter about which style of football you're playing. If people want to play for the back or knock it up and go and chase the second ball and win it for there, I'm not too bothered, big man. I just want to see a team that's structured and it'll give the opposition. We should be beating them in this league. That's what we need. We need to be winning in this league consistently.
Correct.
And as if we're doing that, because we're going into the Champions League, probably have a shot at that next season in the qualifiers to get in there. So we need to get a squad and a pool of players that's going to be first and foremost good enough in Scotland, and then we'll see what it takes us. But at the end of the day, Champions League money's just to get the money, mate. And if you can finish third and progress into the EFA, fine. We had a hard group this year.
I wouldn't be looking too much at
no,
Champions League.
we're not
we want to
consistent.
Consolidate the league title.
Correct. We're not consistent. We're not consistent. 2 points and 2 points out of 9 against the Dross in the league isn't good enough. So going forward, mate, we just need to make sure we get a decent manager.
I never heard, but who would you get any ideas who you would like in? Or?
I think I'd like to probably go for a British manager. I think we need to get that.
Is that pointing towards Sean Dykes because he's free and available?
I said he is free and available. He knows how to win the championship. He had been a championship manager in that, and might have even been lower down the league. Some of these managers, Big Al, that are in the Premiership now. Eddie Howe was another one. Didn't get a chance until they get the teams out the Championship and consolidate them in the Premiership. Eddie Howe kept Bournemouth in that league and eventually kept them in. Same with Sean Dyche. He got a Burnley team up, and kept them in there. And he didn't have a lot of money to spend, but he structured them, he organised them, and he done what he could with them, and he actually got them into Europe. So, fair play to me. Is that not an achievement in itself?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's pals with Warburton, isn't he? So Warburton will be on his ear, say, take the job, big man. I mean, it's not as if he's going to a far bigger club. He's obviously not playing in English, but if he consolidates the Rangers League titles for the next 5 years, he'll get another chance in the Premier League. You know what I mean?
Right, we'll see. Jaffa then, Bridgman. Jaffa.
I think you're right, mate. That was the two names. I'm of the same opinion. I think he's got to be British. I think somebody that knows the league, concentrate in the SPFL, and I think everything else falls into place. I wouldn't look too far ahead at this moment in time. And noticeable, I did notice one thing. I mean, I said this earlier on, Ox, in the statement that we released today. The last statement that was released for Gerrard when he left, Ross Wilson was quoted on it. I noticed that it was just the board of directors today that wished Giovanni Van Bronckhorst well.
Every picture tells a story, mate. Every picture tells a story.
If you want to read a bit between the lines there, it's maybe things are not quite as hunky-dory as we think in the background either. But personally speaking, I would go for Davy Martindale. That would be my shout.
Oh, big call.
HR in the morning.
Yes. With a lot of people on glue, drugs, and I think
crack cocaine.
No, I think so.
We're getting heavier all the time here. This is a clean show. The manager I want, I've already said it 3 times tonight, I want to get Gerrard back. That's what I want. I get some buzz about the place again.
But you're getting heavier all the time. You're on heroin, man. Jesus.
Don't you like that thought, Aaron?
Nah, no way whatsoever.
You don't want anybody else's thoughts other than your own?
No, I'm agreeing. I'm disagreeing with you on that point.
Let me get my thoughts, man.
Your thoughts,
to see
okay.
Steven Gerrard. I'd like to see Steven Gerrard coming back. Or second best, the boy Beale. I'd like to see him coming back.
I think, I get it. I love Stevie G's time, but I think that ship sailed,
Yeah, I agree it could have sailed. But that's what I would like.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we might have been joined. Not yet. But we'll see. We're in interesting times. Hopefully it's done properly.
Just to expand on that, Ox, what would Stevie G bring back to the club if we went down that route?
What would Stevie G bring back to the club?
Aye, what would he?
He's got a bit more experience now.
Fitness. Fitness, Big Al.
Another title.
Anyway, I think we've been...
Surely no.
I think we've been joined by Old Davy. I think he's phoned in at 5 to 9. He's been talking to the receptionist. All right, Old Davy?
Aye. I'll tell you one thing. She makes sense in half a use. I'll tell you that. Who you want to bring back. I'll tell you. I'm never short of words. Well, I don't think I'm ever short of words. But Big Al just stole my thunder. Because he just said everything I was running to point out.
All right, well, thanks for the call then, Davy, if we don't have to hear from you.
Oh, you're a shower. No, but I'll tell you one thing, guys. Interim manager, you must be kidding. 1 step forward and 10 steps back. You can't go in that direction. Come on.
We're too big now. Where we are now is a different place from where we've been. Maybe someday for a couple of weeks, but I think you've got to. The board have got a decision to make, Davey.
I think you were on the button a couple of 5-10 minutes ago, and you said somebody said it anyway. That this has been getting. They've not just came out of the blue today. This has been thought out a wee bit. So I could be agreeing with Big Al. This could pop out tomorrow. Because you just don't sack somebody on a Monday and get somebody on a Tuesday and they don't know it's done before. It doesn't work that way.
It was a big surprise to me, GB.
A big surprise? It's always a big surprise. It is what it is, Ox. I don't know what to say about the next guy. If it's got to be the Mora, then they've clearly been thinking about it and they've done their due diligence on him, and they're sure that they're going to go and he's going to be able to build a team there and use what's left of the team that we've got there now. But I agree with Bridge, by the way. It's got to be a kind of wow factor appointment. If it's a kind of a bit of a damp squib, then it'll not appease the fans, and the fans will just add to the pressure of this new manager coming in. So they really need to kind of sell it. If it's a guy, it's an unknown guy, then they're really going to have to sell it well. And if it's like a Sean Dice, then it will appease the fans, but they'll need to give Dice money to build a solid team, because I think he will make his. If it's Dice, then he's got to make his hard to beat, Ox. I think he'll make his solid at the back, and like Southside stated, maybe he'll have the opportunity to actually build an attacking team rather than having to firefight in the Premier League all the time. You know what I mean? So personally, I think the safe choice would be Dice, but it's whether he comes with everything that we're sitting in now with a poor squad and not a lot of money to spend. That's a problem.
Oh, can I just come in on what GB said there?
No. Carry on, David.
I mean, he's talking about. I can get what he's talking about, but what's this wow factor? Did we not think that when we got Giovanni Van Bronckhorst? Wow, looked good, seemed to be good, done the business a few times, got us good times, and I wish him all the best. A wow factor is not going to work here.
I think it worked with Gerrard, Davy. Because he came in.
It took him 3 years.
I hope somebody's not just tuning into the shows you started there, Davy. The wow factor.
No.
Done the business a few times, yeah. I don't know what you're on about, but anyway. I'll be interested to see where we go. There's a big call we've made, and I think if you get it right with manager Southside, it doesn't really matter. People move on quite quickly if you get the results.
That's what I was just going to say, Davey. It doesn't matter, or even the GB, it doesn't matter who it is. He just has to come in and we have a structure, organised, look structured and organised first and foremost, and win games. And if we're winning games, that'll be the remit. That's the remit for any manager. But we've been through different ones, and we've had down the road of foreign managers, and we've had Le Guin and Advocat, and we've had Cascina, and now we've had Giovanni. So I think it wouldn't be my first choice, but I'm sort of siding towards a Sean Dyche sort of type of guy. I think he could come in, and I think he'd command the respect, and I think he could just come in, and as long as we're prepared to back him, then I think we would get something structured and something organised. And as long as we're winning, and it's just to come in and start winning in Scotland first and foremost. So that's what we need going forward. And respect to everybody that puts their opinions in, but Kevin Thompson, if he gets a role at some point at Ibrox in the background, fair enough. I don't see it being critical. Him coming in, it's like he was at Kelty Hearts. It's like a corner shop. They're coming to come in and be manager or caretaker manager should it have been at Glasgow Rangers, and it's a massive job today. So I don't see anything like that, and I think Sean Dyche has got a bit of credibility about him. Whether Ross Wilson goes down the road of him at Southampton and all, he might look at him because he think he knows him. I hope no, but he's another one that's been in the league down at Southampton. I don't know if they'd look at him. But I think Sean Dyche, for what he done at Burnley for the seasons that he was there and come up as a championship manager into the Premier League, and if it's long ball sometimes here and there, see, as long as we're winning, I don't care about the football. As long as we're winning, and we know the system that we're playing, if it's going to be long ball, then so be it. If it's 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, whatever. But I think he's got the credentials, and I think it'd be a fresh face. And the only player there that's worked with him, I think, is maybe Tom Lawrence at one point, and probably Arfield. He had Arfield. So he comes in there, he wheels the axe, and hopefully the board and Ross Wilson back him. And then we see a whole new team going forward, because that team needs refreshed.
All right, talking about refreshing, good to know we've been joined by Baloo. Evening, Baloo.
Evening, boys. How you doing?
Good to hear from you, mate.
Oh, it's good to be back on for a wee while. It's a while since, it's maybe nearly a year. It's a long, long time anyway. But bad start to the year for me, but I'm all right now, so not to worry about that.
Good mix.
Any question? What am I thinking about? I'm going to off the wall with this one. This is a possible candidate for me. Wayne Rooney for manager.
Well, thanks for the call. It's been good to hear.
Don't be a stranger.
I expected that. So
that's a wow factor for GB.
I don't think that's a wow factor. I don't think he's a wow factor at all. But I know
lock up your grannies.
There's always that. Well, I want to begin with. So I like he had them playing for in the derby, but he had a really bad situation, much like McCoy did here, where he got the job at the wrong time and there was no money and the club was going down. So I think that was, and also he was good with the team, got them working hard, even paid the players' wages when it was they weren't getting paid with the team, the company.
He done a great job, but I don't think the cut his jib would be out to me.
I know he's not a Rangers quality man, I know that, but I think I'm just looking at what we've got at the moment. We've had Rangers quality men now for a wee while, and when Gio took the team over, it was Gerrard's team, and they were fit, and we chased everything, and everybody complained about the time at Gerrard he wouldn't change anything, and now you're saying exactly the same thing about Gio. He didn't change anything. You can't have this all the time. You can't keep saying all the time. I think this time we had a manager that had discipline problems at the training. I think he was trying to strictly regime all these guys, tell me they had to do what he wanted them to do, and it wasn't working. And the players knew it wasn't working. And that's, I think, why their heads are down. And I think that's why they're not playing as a team. That's why they're all playing as individuals. I don't think there's anything wrong with very many of our players. There's about 3 I would think shouldn't even be Ibrox, but I don't think there's very much wrong with most of our players. It's the backroom team and how they were managed, and that's why. That was a great team. That team went out to the Europa League final this year, and they were on top of everything, won the Scottish Cup, weren't far away from the league. I mean, it's implausible to say that these guys aren't good players. What's actually happened is how they were commanded, how they were worked for the back. Comments coming out about, trick ponies and all this sort of thing with step-overs about Kent. And then Arfield comes out and said, nobody's fit. I mean, it's clear nobody's fit. We've got a full team sitting in the the doctor's room waiting for treatment all the time. That isn't Ross Wilson's fault. That is the guys that are running the squad and the guys that are running the fitness. We've got a team of demoralised and unfit players, and Gio is rightly out the door because of it. There's no complaint about that. It's nobody's seen anything out there that's pleasing them, and people have been talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And individual players are getting assassinated now by groups of fans. I mean, I've got the ones that I don't like as well. We've all got our own ones, but at a time like this, that's what happens and that causes division. It must cause division in the training ground. I mean, I've worked for people that I didn't like, and I've worked for people that didn't like me.
I can vouch for that every night, mate.
But it can be demoralising. And see if you're a young football player. I mean, all these guys are young lads, most of them, and they're not really. I mean, they're football players. They're no rocket scientists. And if somebody takes your thunder away from you every day in training, that's going to affect you, and that'll affect your dressing room as well. So I think I'm glad he's away, and hopefully if we can get somebody in that has good credentials, at least as a player, and that can motivate them, get them fit, because you've got 3 or 4 weeks yet that can actually get them fitter in and get them chasing and fighting for the ball. I think that's all we need.
Any thoughts apart from
all the names that have been quoted. All the names that have been quoted, you can't really disagree with it. They've all got their own sort of qualities about them. There's not very many of them I like the style of football they play. But again, that's what it is. And I wouldn't take, and I'm not being funny, Bridger, but I wouldn't take Gerrard back, because Gerrard actually openly showed in the job that he didn't believe he had the qualities for the job, because he kept on talking up Beale and all his other backroom staff, saying, well, that's not my job, that's his job. So he didn't believe in himself, and because of that was why I was happy to see him go. Because you need a guy at Ibrox that actually takes command, like Souness, like Smith, like any manager we had in the past. The good managers, they were the manager. It was their decision. It was their choice. They didn't defer to other people, and that's what we need. And I think we need somebody with really, really good strength about them, and somebody that hopefully has played the game at a reasonable level and can get them actually all working hard and fighting for each other. That's what it's missing up there.
Playing the game at a reasonable level. If you look at the last 2 managers, Jaffa.
Yeah, aye. World Cup finalists and Champions League winners. And listen, some of the things that obviously you start noticing when things are not going well, which is always the case. Giovanni's not getting messages out onto the players. You've got a goalkeeper coach. That just isn't working in a dugout. You can't do that. It's too quick. It's too fast moving. You need to respond to situations that are happening on the park. The manager needs to be able to get his message across, and the players need to understand that. And you can't. Somebody else can't speak for you to do that. They just can't do it, because when you're the manager, as you say, Billy, you've got to command. You're the epicenter. Everybody else is looking at you for direction. That's why you're the manager. You're the leader.
And to your point as well,
you've got the leaders and you've got the followers.
And to your point as well, that's how Gerrard and Van Bronckhorst did get the players looking up to them. But if they're not actually going to make the decisions, like he was letting Beale make decisions, and I'm pretty sure that Giovanni was letting Mackay make a lot of decisions. I think that's where most of these excellent players in the past fell down. They didn't have the belief in themselves, the conviction to stand up and say, no, this is how it's been done. I know what you're saying, but this is how it's been done, and that's what you need.
It'll be interesting. I think you need a bit of luck. You need the players to buy into you, and you need to put the ball in the back of the net, Bridgman.
That's a thing that we haven't had for a wee while, is people putting the ball in the back of the net, the way the fans want it. Plenty of possession. We've had loads of possession, but dreadful, giving the ball away nonsense, And yes, that's what we need. We need 1 or 2 people up front, some decent, shall we say, midfield players. There's no fear to have a shot, and you'll start to score goals, like the way we used to score goals. And I don't know when that's going to happen. Of course, I don't know whether they're there, whether the players are there, and somebody's going to come in and just magically turn them into great players, or what. But if we're going to have to go and buy We need to go and buy players. First and foremost, defenders. Secondly, centre halves. And secondly, up front attackers. And you need to get one real good player in the midfield. I mean, a top quality player in the midfield. I don't know how long that's going to take, but we need to get it.
You've also got to look at the budget we've got as well, Southside.
Well, we know the budget's top heavy, isn't it? So you've got to try and at some point you maybe need to look at something in January. Probably your two that you're looking at will be Alfie and Ryan Kent. And even when the new manager comes in, I mean, let's be honest, they'll not want to take a sore injury or anything like that, and probably for the best interest of the club and all that, for what they've done in the past and what they've done for us, it's time probably in January to move the two of them on, regardless of what we get for them. I think we've just got to move them on and get them off the wage bill. I think going forward we need players that are committed to the club, and they two obviously don't want to re-sign. So in my opinion, that's the first job of Ross Wilson, is to get they two out of Ibrox, to be honest. They'll be grateful for what they've done, but going forward it has to change, and we might as well start with they two since their contracts are at 6 months to go come January.
GB?
Yep, echo that. Southside, mate. I think, like it says, Alfie's time's come and gone, mate. As much as, like it says, they're entitled to a holiday and all the rest of it, for me, it's he's limped by all season, and he should be fully fit by now. There's no excuse for it. And that just tells me that he's clearly wanting to look elsewhere if he's not interested in what's going on at Rangers. Kent's a funny one. Like, I don't know if the new manager coming in might actually see Kent's qualities. He's been murdered this season, but I think there's still the Kent that we know in there. And again, it goes back to the first kind of Roy Mackay video that we seen training. He was basically turning and saying to him, the tricks are for circus. Saying that to a guy that's a kind of creative attacking player. Again, I think Blue touched on it. It just totally deflates these kind of guys. Whereas you're wanting these guys to try their tricks, because that's where they get their flair. That's where they become unpredictable and stuff like that. So there might be a chance for Kent, but where does the money come from? I mean, as much as we want to enhance the squad, it's going to take a couple of windies, Ox, I think.
I think they're maybe not as, the squad's maybe not as bad as with the look that's now. If we start getting results and people start playing with confidence and they buy into the manager. Anyway, I think we've been joined by Jim.
Can I come in there?
Wait a minute, mate. We've been joined by Jim. Evening, Jim.
Good evening, lads. Here we are again. Here we are again. This has got to stop, this manager merry-go-round here. I mean, we've got ourselves back on a sound footing financially, and here we are again, changing managers. Southside, I heard you making a comment there regarding Sean Dyche. He says that you don't care how we play football as long as we win.
I don't mean it.
Well, can I finish? Surely we are the new, because they were sick of watching the football we're watching. Giovanni Brockers, up until the other week here, had lost to one team in Scotland domestically, and with Celtic before St Johnstone beat us. I mean, they are because of the football we're watching, mate. I found it a bit kind of strange that you came away with that comment. We don't care what kind of football we're watching. I care what kind of football I'm watching, because what I'm watching now is pathetic. And that's where we are the day again, changing a manager. We can't afford to go down the Sean Dyche route again, because it turned out the same way for Sean Dyche at Burnley. He got hunted out the door because of the pathetic football he was playing. None of these guys that's getting mentioned today fill me with joy. Who's going to be the next Rangers manager? And I'm worried about that. I really am worried where we go again, because we can't keep going there. I know you, by the way, I respect your opinions and all the rest of me, but I just found it was a bit strange that you saying that you don't care how we play as long as we're winning. I care about how we play.
Do you think, Giovanni, if we'd have beat St Johnstone, Livingston and St Mirren, do you think he would have got sacked today, Jim?
No chance. I don't think he would have, no. He's lost to one team domestically in Scotland, and that was Celtic. until St Johnstone beat us.
Mm-hmm. So it's results that's done it, no performance.
Of course it is. I think it's results that's done it, aye.
And that's, I think, the point that Southside was making. Southside.
Jim, what I said was, and what I said was, see if whoever it is, see if we're structured, we're organised, and we know the style of play. If it's long ball, 4-4-2, if it's 3-5-2, if it's tippy-tappy, matty pass the ball up the park, whatever's the winning way, that's what I was getting at. It'll be the best way. Because at the end of the day, you're judged on results. That's what I was meaning. But as long as we've got a structure and we're organised, Jim, and we know what type of system that we're trying to play. No?
Aye, but what Boxer said had his structure, he knew what way he was trying to play. As I'm saying, he'd lost one domestic game. I know we hated the way we were playing, but as I'm saying, I gave it the comment. I actually had a wee chuckle when you said that. I said, I'll get on there again for that one.
The trouble is, mate, we took 2 points out of 9. Your argument stacks up, Jim, but it's the last 3 games, 2 points out of 9. Well, sorry, the Hearts game, taking the Hearts point away from the Hearts game. You know, Livingston, St Johnstone and St Mirren all within a short space of time. 2 points out of 9. That's what's got them where we are. Yeah, it's no.
Aye, big thing.
If we'd won all the games, we wouldn't be having these gone. We wouldn't be having a show tonight. Yeah, is that
100%, mate? That's what I was saying. If they hadn't lost 3 games, I lost that game to St Johnstone, I don't think we would have had this discussion tonight.
Post that, you were coming in, mate.
I agree with Jim. I don't think any of us thought he was going to get sacked simply because they took a week. And Jim's 100% right, not 1,000% right. If he hadn't took just 2 points out of the 9, there's no way Gio was being sacked. Not a chance. But for me, guys, it's going to be interesting. If, and it's a big if it's Beale or if it's Sean Dyche, make no mistake about it, then our board know they'll be outlaying money. Because I'll tell you now, Sean Dyche under no circumstances would take the Rangers job unless he was getting a right few quid to spend on players. I'll tell you that right now. Because the first thing he would need to do, his due diligence would be to see what that mob across the road had spent. And any manager worth their salt, and that's where I fault Gio a wee bit when he kept saying he was happy with his squad, because he couldn't have possibly been happy with the squad, because he never had many players to pick for starters. And a decent manager worth his salt, that's the first thing he would look at the Rangers books, see what's on the books and work out whether he thinks he can work with him or not, and see what his budget is. So if they're bringing in an English manager as such, make no mistake about it, unless it's somebody we've not heard of, if it's any of the names that we've all been hearing, they'll be looking for a hefty way-in to bring in their own players, and I just don't see that happening the new guys. I don't think it's feasible. I never said Kevin Thompson for manager. What I said was they might bring in somebody of that ilk to tide us by the rest of the season if they had somebody else at the end of the season, whether it was a Beale or something like that. I don't know. But I genuinely do think Sean Dyche or somebody like that would be looking for a right few million to bring in their own players. Of that, there's no doubt. Have they got it? I don't know.
It's going to be interesting, Jaffa.
Oh, it'll be interesting, that's for sure. Because you've no, I mean, we've only had the day's news to gather all the names together with some of the fanciful names and some of the foreign names. Some of them I've never heard of. German managers that are out of work. The boy at Southampton. I think I saw a list earlier on about 10 names, including John Terry, who bamboozled me why he would even be quoted for the Rangers job. But the market's open, the bookies are open, depending who your bookie is, will depend what names you see. There will be hundreds over the next coming days. It would be good if the club could get it done quick. I think that's always the best way to do it. If they've got their man and they've already been working on it, Ox, which I agree with you, they probably have been, then let's get them in the door. Let's get them familiarised with the environment, familiarised with the players that are still there and the staff, and ultimately, let's work on the plan and getting the team back and getting them fit and getting that injury list reduced somewhat, because that's what's going to matter, is getting the right team on the park and getting everybody buying into the same theory and the same logic and ultimately getting results. And I'm sure that's what we all want. That's what we're all aiming for.
Suicide, the trouble with the managers is that they are the most important person at the club, but they're not the most important group, because obviously the players are the guys that win and lose you matches, but the manager, I don't know if it's a good thing and a bad thing in modern football, has become really pivotal in it.
Aye, I think if we all sort of look in at it, normally the Dutch, I don't think many of the players would get in the input round them, you know. I don't think they get that sort of type of thing for Gio. I think we've listened to his interviews and stuff, and he's the guy that's got to lead that pack of players. He's meant to try and keep them all happy. And apart from all the injuries we've had, he's changed a lot of the players, and a lot of the players he's outed for a while and then brought them in. And maybe that's where he's responsible, also at that point of your club, for trying to make these players want to go out and make and try for you and do something for you. But then when you look at obviously the head of recruitment, it's down to him to try and make sure that the players have all got contracts and you're trying to keep them happy, and if they're happy and we're doing well, they're going to re-sign. So, aye, Gio's the man that's been responsible, and I think then this next manager that we get, we've got to have a manager. I would look to maybe say, look, there's a 2-year deal with a year's option. Bring in your assistant manager and whoever, and maybe Ox is something that we should maybe look long term. Should we put a structure in place in the background that we've got our own physios, we've got our own backroom sort of staff, we've got a third coach coming in, maybe this new manager it comes in, and we try and work a structure behind the scenes.
But everybody out.
We've got a goalkeeping coach, and we've got this and that. So you know, when everybody leaves, they just all leave en masse, and you've got to restructure again. You know, I don't know if it's something that we could do going forward, but maybe it's something we could look at. So we've got certain people in the background that people don't need to rely. We've got a sports development guy, we've got the sports science guy, we've got this and that. But that's only my opinion.
We spoke about this exact same thing when Steven Gerrard emptied the place, that this can't be allowed to happen again. As I said there about the managers, we can't keep changing managers. That's going to get emptied in there again. That place should get emptied because there's no chance any of them are hanging about. And there's no go to the guys like you're saying there in place. We never restructured them then. We never had them.
Jim, I really don't.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. When Gerrard emptied the place, we had this discussion that we can't allow this to happen again. Well, it's happened again. It has happened again because he's going to take every one of them that was all with him out the door, which probably rightly so. But as Southside said there, we said a wee back then, we can't allow it to happen. Now we're allowing it to happen again. As I said, we can't keep changing managers, or we're going to end up back in that hole where we were in 2012 again. We can't allow it. And you're saying they're giving a 2-year contract. They shouldn't be getting any 2-year contract. They should be getting a year's rolling contract. That's what they should be getting. Because that's a mistake we made with Van Bronckhorst, a 3.5-year contract, which is going to cost us $4-5 million to get rid of him. Absolute pathetic, man, the structure within that club.
There'll be criticism about that, but obviously you don't know the negotiations. If you want somebody, what you've got to do to get them. Everybody's the same boat in it. If you want somebody there in a position of strength, GB.
I mean, I think if you've got all these people in place already, like a goalkeeping coach and all that, it might limit you who you can attract, because, again, most managers that do come in want their own staff with them because they trust them to carry out their instructions and stuff like that. By the way, the touching on the point you just talked about with Ross Wilson have been mentioned in the goodbye letter. I mean, it might be time that we go back to just being the manager controls it all. I mean, hopefully that's the kind of route that they're looking at. If the board have took control of that letter, then maybe they're starting to look at would you call it that Ross Wilson's maybe time's up as well. But first and foremost, we need to get a solid manager in place, and then we take it from there. But who it is
if Ross Wilson get any brains, he'll have signed a 12-year contract yesterday.
Southside would have given him that deal, wouldn't you, big man?
I would have. I'd have hunted him after Aaron Ramsey and Diallo. I would have. But yeah, I know we can all sort of. I think we all just feel probably a bit of relief now. You know, we can all look forward to more. I've got different here. Everybody's come on tonight and they've all given great opinions and good chat. And we're all bears at heart and we all want the best for our club and we've all got slightly different opinions, but we can all agree on one thing. Whoever it is, this is critical to the club now. We can't be getting this wrong. So it's got to be, the board have got to get this right along with Ross Wilson if he's still there. If we clean him out and the board make a decision, whatever, or we go for a new sporting director first again and then have to wait, I don't know. But it's critical that the board get this right now. There's no more messing about. You know, it's got to be done right. It's too big a club to go through this mess again. So hopefully the board and whoever, if it's Ross Wilson, get this right. That's what we hope for them. We can carry on with the season, support them, and have a go at getting these 2 cups back and seeing if we can get points back in them. And if we don't get there this year, we make sure that next year the league's definitely our priority.
Yeah, well, gentlemen, we've reached that time of the evening. I'd just like to thank all the callers tonight. Great to hear from Baloo, Big Al for Australia. Of course, your good self, Jim, Blue Star, Paul Davey, and of course, your GB. But over to Bridgeman for his last thought. We'll go to Jaffa first. Jaffa, last thoughts.
Hi, Ox. Yep, thanks for having me on again, mate. Great chat tonight. Brilliant callers. Really great to hear everybody's opinion. And that's what Rangers Radio is all about. It's all shown. It's about us as Rangers fans. So thanks for having me on, mate. Good to be on with all you lads.
Southside.
Hi, Ox. Thanks for being on. It's good to be on with Bridgeman and Jaffa and everybody else that's called in this evening. It's been good show, mate, and all good topics and good thoughts for everybody. So thanks very much.
Bridgeman. Well, you see me lost Bridge. Well, can I thank everybody for taking the time to join us here at Rangers Radio. Watch this space. Obviously, we're on a World Cup break. As things develop, we'll inform you of any more shows. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. And remember, we are still the people. Take it away, old schoolboy.
Now, Dunbar, McCready. Forward to Meikle-John, to Dickey, back to Cunningham, and it's Morton over to Young, a neat pass to Brand. He hits it on, and yes, it's a goal! Listen to that Ibrox crowd roar as Rangers start the new year with a wonderful goal. And listen to Callum Kennedy as he sings with the crowd, the Rangers Chorus.
Have you seen the Glasgow Rangers? Have you seen the boys in blue? They're admired by all who know them. If you saw them, so would you. Loved by all, they are good sportsmen. For fair play, they top the pole. There's a roar that beats old Hampden when they score the winning goal. On the slopes of dear old Ibrox, thousands gather for the fray, and they're glorious and victorious when the Rangers win the day. They have played way in Monaco, they have played in USA, but the greatest game in history is the game on New Year's Day. It's the home of famous heroes, and their praises have been sung. Willie Waddle, Tory Gillick, Alan Morton and George Young. So when all my life has ended, and when death has made its mark, may they scatter all my ashes on the slopes of Ibrox Park. With the angels I'll be singing